And we are live. Have I drank on my green tea? Let's just let this bad boy get a little bit rolling. Let's see if we'll start building an audience. Lovely weather out. Let's talk about the weather, shall we? It's been outside. It was quite sunny. Now it's raining. Oh well. The system works, folks. The system works. Right. So let's get this show on the road. We're going to talk about paying the price today. I get in my field. I get very interesting questions that get come my way, particularly regarding. Let's look at weight loss, for example. So people will say to me, typically, a few times, how much to charge per session? I briefly mentioned this yesterday. It's a really interesting question. How much to charge per session? Well, say for example, if someone's looking to lose 3 stone, well, it's probably going to cost you, I don't know, $3,000. And then people look at you like you're mental. Well, actually, what has the cost per session got to do with this overall big goal that you have? Now, this isn't going to develop into some rant about people, shopping commodity-based shoppers on price with coaching, because ultimately there's certain types of people in this world, and people that want help and coaching will seek it out and they'll pay the price for whatever. So we're not going to develop into some rant. We're not going to dig anybody out. But the truth is, what you've got to ask yourself is, like I mentioned yesterday, if you're trying to get somewhere from where you currently are, you've got to be willing to pay the price. Now, paying for something doesn't necessarily have to be monetary based. That can be time, that can be effort, like I said yesterday. But there's going to be there's going to be a price to be paid, okay? So if somebody comes along and says to me, right, John, how much do you charge per session? I want to lose 3 stone. Well, what's that got to do with this macro goal that you've told me? Because surely, if you've got to lose that much weight, you'll pay whatever price possible to try and achieve that goal, and you'll do whatever you possibly can, because there's no shortcuts to that. Like I said yesterday, there's absolutely no shortcuts whatsoever to achieving a high-end weight loss or body composition change goal, because ultimately being fat, as I have been, 70 pounds overweight, is painful and it hurts, and sometimes you've got to be willing just to say, well, I've got to just pay the price on this thing. I can't be looking around trying to find the cheapest way of doing it, because there is no cheap way of doing it. Now, most people, when I go and grab a coffee in Starbucks or Costa, I'll stand behind people and they'll spend 20 quid on coffee and snacks. It's not even a meal. They'll drop 15, 20 quid on a snack. People will pay £100 a month for Sky. People will pay, £200, £300, £400 a month on a car, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're then saying that you can't afford to invest in yourself, well, what's going to be left at the end of all that? What's going to be left if the car breaks down? What's going to be left if, you can't watch the telly? Do you know what I mean? Everything costs money, but you'll only be successful based on what you prioritise. So when people say paying the price, it's often seen as this negative thing, but actually it's a value thing. It's a value system. Are you willing to pay the price? Because if somebody had said to me back in 2005, when I was 18 stone, it's going to cost you this much and it's going to take you this long to do what you're looking to do, I probably would have thought twice, but I didn't. I just said, right, I'm going to do this. I remember sitting on my spare bed and saying to myself, I can't lose weight because I can't afford to buy new clothes. What a stupid thought that was. But I almost believed that. I almost didn't go ahead with my journey because I thought I couldn't afford to do this. But if it's important to you, you'll find a way. But trying to find the cheap way, trying to cheat, trying to find the secrets, the hacks to business, weight loss, fitness, relationships, any of this stuff, trying to find the cheats, there isn't any. You have to pay the price. So when people say to me, oh, I've got coaching cheaper elsewhere, I'm like, well, great, but there's a reason why it's cheaper, because the service isn't as good. That's just the way it goes. If something's more expensive, it's expensive equals good. So, and also if you go in the cheap route, well, that's going to be, you're not going to get as good a result. And also, you're not going to put as much skin in the game, and you're not going to value it as much. Now, for example, there's nothing wrong with this. Excuse me, bit of raspberry. There's nothing wrong with this, but if you're, for example, paying and go, pay as you go at the gym, well, you're giving yourself an excuse not to go. Now, I know me, and if I don't commit to something, I'm probably 12 years in at the point now where I'll go. But most people, if you don't commit to something, you don't put some skin in the game, you're not going to go, you're not going to do it. Because you attach no value to it. I've seen people pay like 100 quid a year for a gym membership and never go, because what's 100 quid across a year when people are spending that a month on Sky? Do you know what I mean? Or pissing out 4 quid's worth of coffee a day. Do you know what I mean? And I've had people say to me that, they're happy to pay 300 quid a month for a car, yet they hate themselves and they're overweight and they don't like themselves. So paying the price is a value system. It's not a negative thing. It's a good value to have, to understand that whatever you want to do, there is a price to pay. But unfortunately, a lot of people make a lot of money telling you that there isn't a price to pay. You can just buy this program and within a month you'll be well on the way. You don't build anything in a month. You don't build anything for nothing. You don't go a couple of times a month to the gym, pay £5 to go, and whilst that's better than nothing, that's not going to get you any results. That's not commitment. You've got to commit to whatever it is you're doing. But the first stage is you've got to prioritise, and you have to say, look, if this is important to me, if I really want to lose the 3-4 dress sizes, I really want to drop the 3, 4, 5, 6 stone, am I willing to invest whatever it takes in that, or am I not? And if you're not, that's fine. You have to accept it. But you can't go into that. You can't go into a big goal, a big weight loss goal. I'm talking from my field here, with a cheap mindset, because it's going to cost you. Now, you can run outside for free. That doesn't cost you, but the whole process is going to cost you something. So, trying to find the cheapest way isn't the best option, particularly if where you are is currently painful. You need to look at the best option, and if that means paying for stuff, and that means learning some hard lessons, then you've got to do that. If that means having to sacrifice your 4 quid cup of coffee, or taking a few channels off your Sky bundle so it's 30 quid less a month, or God forbid, not having not trying to impress people that don't really care with a nice car, then you've got to do that. If where you are physically is painful, because you're never going to get that back. You're never ever going to get that back, ever, and it costs. And because you're not going to people aren't going to sit in front of a doctor and say, what's the cheapest way to heal myself? They're going to try and find the best way. So the point I'm trying to make is, you've got to look at this thing is, are you willing to pay the price for what you want, or are you having to adjust your expectations? And I keep talking about this and I'll keep banging on about it. It's your expectations versus what you're willing to do. But if you're looking to lose weight, particularly my area, or change your life in that respect, it costs either time, effort, or money. If you put all three into this thing, you can get some really amazing results. But if your first question is, what's your cost per session, and you've got to lose 3 stone, well, you're in the wrong part of town there, and it's not really going to work. So question for today, I'll leave you with this thought. Are you paying the price? Really? And if you think you can't afford something, have a look at your numbers, work out how much you spend on coffee, work out how much you spend on TV, work out how much you spend on things that can be sacrificed for the greater good. And actually, if you want to get healthy and achieve something, it might be worth a couple less frappuccinos each month. That's me done. See you later.